Okay, so we should be live.
Looks like it is. So we just wait for someone to come in and say hello, and then we know that the live is out there.
This is the funny thing when you're doing this world of podcasting and Facebook and stuff, you never exactly know what's going on until you actually get to see it.
Yeah, that is the case.
So have you been doing, mate? You okay?
Yeah, good. Really busy.
Yeah,
really busy getting things done. Yeah, lots going on. August is fairly quiet because it's, I mean, around the house.
Yeah, right.
Holiday season in the UK, so that's nice. But it does mean then that I can get a lot done, and also I'm heavily into my barbecue. So August being the summer months, and as you know, Andy, the summer months in the UK aren't particularly summery. That they're usually wet and drizzly. We've got a bit of sun now, but it has been raining today. So grabbing the opportunity to go out there and start doing the barbecue is a big thing, and that's one of the things I'm looking forward to actually when we go over to America. Is that I've already checked, and there is a barbecue restaurant in Ithaca.
Fantastic! Oh, that's really cool. So what are you thinking? You might be like Ramsey and go behind into the kitchen and do some barbecuing with them, basically.
We could do an SRA podcast from behind the kitchen.
Yeah, because that would be really cool, actually. Something quite different. Yeah. What we could do is go and clear the kitchen, clear the restaurant, and clear the people, and then in referential payback for that, basically get them to teach you how to kind of use the kitchen. I'll just sit there and eat food, mate, and drink wine or something. It's fine with me.
But yeah, I'm heavily into cooking, like prime ribs and things like that. So yeah, I've already checked that bad boy out. I'll be finding that when we go there for sure. How about yourself?
Yeah, so I've just been again working really, mostly kind of. It's just a never-ending list of things to do, isn't there? From our perspective, what with all the clients and emails and that kind of stuff, and there's websites to manage and do. And from an SRA's perspective, there's a continual list on my desk that's like 2 foot long, as we know, that we never really get to the bottom of in terms of things to do. And I think that's the thing about when you run these type of organisations. I don't think people that aren't behind the scenes, should I say, don't really know what goes on and don't really see. So when you see you and I talking and we're laughing and it's all good fun and we're in Beachfield on Fridays for day, the assumption is that kind of this is good fun and quite easy. But to try and actually build a kind of worldwide organisation from scratch, basically with not much funding at all, just our own funding, as we know, is actually is quite a leap of faith, I guess, really, because I would imagine if you and I sat down and worked out how many hours we've spent with SRA in the last 2 years, we'd be into probably hundreds and hundreds of hours of unpaid work, effectively, because we haven't really monetized it from that perspective. And it's a conversation I was having with Terry the other day. So he was talking about the financial aspect of SRA and what he would like it to be and how we need to connect to other organizations and basically have people behind the scenes that can do that. So again, there's a lot of payment required to have people that you're paying to do jobs and do things. And I think as well, from my perspective, again, I wasn't really thinking of that when you and I decided that we were going to do SRA, and we kind of just blasé said, yeah, let's do it. I don't think there was, because there is a responsibility level from our perspective. If we're paying people and we take people on in paid roles to do things, there is this underlying responsibility to keep paying them. So there is, unseen stress, if you like, that people don't really see. And I don't talk about it because we don't talk about this stuff, but there is quite a lot of things behind the scenes that there's a lot of wheels that need to turn to keep this whole kind of this whole thing on in motion, I guess. Is that how you sort of perceive things from your end?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very glad that we are where we are today because when we first started doing this, it was going into the unknown. We had no idea what was happening. But yeah, there are a number of people that are working behind the scenes. Probably the sort of people on this page don't even know they're there, don't even know what they're doing. But we do have people that are doing the admin, that are working things out. There's other projects that are happening that no one really knows about with the SRA. and it is a huge amount of time that we put into it. So, you know, Andy and I joke that we work 7 days a week on this. We do. It's as simple as that. But it's really enjoyable, and that's the thing. And that's why Andy and I haven't taken anything out of it yet, is because it does give us a financial assurance that the people that are working and need the pay, they can be paid. And other things will come as and when it's ready, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, you got your work, Andy. I've got mine, and we've got the academy. It's like doing 2 full-time jobs in 7
yeah.
days.
And that's exactly it. I think Jane said the other day, she said the only people that really probably understand and realise what we're doing behind the scenes is probably Louise and Jane, because they're actually seeing us trying to run 2 kind of separate, discrete businesses, basically from behind the scenes, with some collective people. But effectively, you know, there are, again, there's a lot of wheels in motion generally, which, I mean, I love it. So I wake up and my mind's full of what we're doing today, how we're doing stuff. We connect and talk, and you know, again, there's lots of people coming on board now from an SRA perspective, certainly, that want to help, that want to get involved, and they can see the benefits of this work on themselves or their family. So I think it's that whole thing. When you've had an SRT clearing done on you, generally because you feel the results, it's a very tangible thing. And that's, I think, one of the interesting things about spiritual work is, for most people, most spiritual work doesn't have a physical effect that you feel. We talk about clearing chakras and we talk about grounding and that kind of stuff, but people can't really feel that tangibly. But when you've had a clearing done, you wake up the next day with a clear mind, you feel less stressed, with more clarity. Most people feel so much better in themselves. And I think it's the emotional feelings that make this work tangible. And I think that's what makes it so attractive to clients, really. So once we've done a clearing on somebody, the next thing generally is they book for their family, because they want all the family members to feel the same. And this, of course, from our perspective, SRA is designed to be a teaching academy. And obviously, we're trying to train practitioners to teach these methods and to kind of get the word out there. So I think there's so much scope for us to try and get SRT into the kind of mainstream tactile conversation, for people to understand that this, you know, this work and the practitioners that are doing the work, you know, need to be supported by the client base, because effectively the client base don't even realize the enormous effects it will have on their life.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? Very often you'll do a clearing for someone in a location that you haven't worked before, and then within 2 weeks you've done about 10-15 clearings in that one location. There was one that comes to mind is Iceland. I'd never done a clearing in Iceland before.
It's too cold, mate. It's far too cold up there.
Yeah, and that came through a few months ago. And from that one clearing, there was probably 9 or 10.
Brilliant.
That came in. And this is what happens, just as you're saying. You know, an individual will get a clearing. The next thing you know, they're getting their families booked in, their family members booked in, their friends book in, and then their friends they have their clearing, and then they book their family in, and then they book their friends in, and this is how it can spread. And it's one of those things, Andy, isn't it? Is that, you know, when we do the research and when we have a look at the stats and facts about the clearings, is anxiety is the big name that comes up. And you know, I don't think you need to be a doctor or a scientist to realize that in today's world, because anxiety is huge, absolutely huge. Mental health, I don't think, I was going to say popular, and popular is the wrong word, but exposed perhaps is a better word. Mental health is far more exposed than it's ever been. And I think perhaps because people didn't used to talk about mental health, particularly men, particularly soldiers, you know, and now we understand PTSD, now we understand anxiety, now we understand mental health issues. And this is just one of the things that we cover in our reports, and certainly teaching the practitioners to go in and help clear those. But anxiety, Andy, is massive, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, actually, because I think when Terry was doing research, he obviously went out to like a thousand client cases, basically, and was trying to collect the stats and the data and pull that back from a kind of scientific perspective to work out, you know, the work that we do and the way that we do our work in terms of spirit release therapy and clearing people, what effect is that having on which components of symptoms, really? And anxiety was the biggest thing that came back. So that kind of was really interesting from our perspective, because that kind of meant that people that are suffering with anxiety generally have spiritual problems. Not everyone, of course, because we never talk about 100% of everything, but the majority of people that suffer with anxiety potentially have a spiritual source to that anxiety and the problem. And that source, of course, can only be rectified from a spiritual perspective. So medication isn't really going to work, potentially, for most people on anxiety if you have unrelated problems that are spiritual. So obviously, from our perspective, the number one thing is attachments, really. So spirit, earthbound attachment, or entity attachments, when these types of attachments connect to your etheric field, obviously they drain your energy. And the next thing they tend to do is they obviously tend to manipulate your thoughts. So people start to have intrusive thoughts. But again, it's interesting conversations, isn't it? Because how many people actually know their own thoughts? Because these days, most people probably don't. Because if you're not sovereign and you've never been sovereign from a spiritual perspective, meaning you've never had anything connected to you apart from your own energy, you wouldn't have probably ever had a situation where you've had clarity of thought that's just yours, because these attachments are continually putting thoughts in your head. And we've all had the thoughts of jumping off bridges and jumping out of windows when we're in high places. And those thoughts are not human thoughts. They're generally not coming from us. So we know that they're external thoughts that are coming in via telepathy. So these entities and these attachments, earthbounds, use telepathy to talk to people. And the way that they do that is obviously to put those thoughts in your mind. So it's a really interesting conversation that anxiety is that number one leading component of spiritual problems, really. And when we clear that etheric field and we remove all of the things that need to be cleared and removed, then of course we're back into that space effectively that people have clarity of thought and those intrusive thoughts, and that anxiety seems to disappear and erode. So I'm just going to say hi to Gabby and hi to Stephanie, who are popped up on the comment. So I remembered to click the comments this time so I can actually see them on the screen, which is good. So hi to you guys.
And we were talking earlier about the people that are working tirelessly behind the scenes, Gabby of which is one. And she's coming, Adriana, we know that she is always monitoring and helping us out on Facebook pages and things like that. So it's regularly it's me and Andy that come on here, but the team is far, far bigger. But going back into that anxiety, and Julia, see, we got Julia on here as well. And this is Julia, who is also working with us. Another name that no one knows, but is also helping the academy to grow and to do the sort of work that we want to do, the professional work that we want it to do. And I think that's the thing with anxiety, is that regularly when we're working, we regularly find shaded areas across eyes, across ears. And usually the purpose for that shaded area is to disrupt and cause disruption. So if you have something across the eye, for example, that stops you from seeing reality, is that you see your own reality, and that own reality can therefore be manipulated. And that's one of the things that regularly comes up on an etheric check, as well as the audio blockages. If you get an audio blockage, you're not going to hear things the same way that it's meant. And we all know, well, we've all perhaps experienced people, you're standing in a group, one person will be talking, and one of you in the group will hear something completely different or take it a completely different way to how the rest of the group have taken it. And that's because the audio functioning in their head is being disrupted. And usually these things are fairly simple to remove and clear out once you know how to do it, once you know how to look, once you know how to acknowledge and clear them out. But when it comes to anxiety, which is what we're particularly talking about, is that if you don't see your own truth and if you don't hear your own truth, that then raises the vibration of anxiousness. And, as we say a lot of the time, the reasons why the attachments are there, whether they be earthbound or entity of some kind, a lot of it is to raise the adrenaline in the body. A lot of it is to raise stress levels and get that vibration working to a level where the entity can start manipulating, really. And that the flip side of that is how you feel as the person. And that more often than not, brings in anxiety, because you have a fear of the rest of the day. You have a fear of tomorrow. And the whole thing about anxiety is that once you start clearing those thought patterns, once you start clearing the visions and the hearing and the audio, you then have a much better opportunity to create a better tomorrow in your mind. And if you create a better tomorrow in your mind, you don't have the anxiety. And just as Terry says, or used to say all the time, and phrases that we use, is that this is the spiritual paramedics. This is where we're in the trenches, clearing the way forward for further help. And this is the work that we do. But it's very clear that anxiety to us is a massive, massive thing that's out there that we work every single day. And it's not getting easier. It's only getting worse, really, because I think more and more people are still becoming more comfortable with going out there and speaking about their mental health and acknowledging their mental health. And this is where we are. It's on the tip of the spear. Moving forward, this is why the work is so important. But as Andy knows, and as a practitioner knows, it is something that can be changed really quite quickly, relatively quickly. And there is, and with our work, there is no need for medication. I think that's the big thing. You're on mute, Andy.
A good point. There was some drilling outside, so went on to mute for a few seconds. I think it's a really good point, Jonno. So I think, again, we both work differently. We do things differently. We do our own things as well. So we both see like a cross section of different clients, and the numbers of clients are pretty huge that we've both probably worked on over the course of 20 years, I guess, somewhere in there. So I'm sure we've probably worked on thousands of clients, or know we have worked on thousands. I think from my perspective, the anxiety thing is interesting because if we look at the medical aspect of anxiety, it's fear. So it's a fear-based problem, basically. But quite often, the people that have that fear don't know where that fear comes in. So again, if you look at anxiety and you kind of extrapolate that into other conditions, people that are hoarding have a fear of letting go of the things that they collect, maybe boxes, cardboard boxes, things that they get delivered. So they collect all these things in the house and then fill the house up to the brim with rubbish, basically, because they're hoarding. But that is an anxiety-based disorder coming from a fear, most probably of letting things go. Or maybe they've let things go in past lives and then lost their life due to some choices and decisions they made. So I think the anxiety thing is really interesting because, and I'm sure you do the same as well, we've worked with clients, in past lives, taking them on past life regressions, where you go back to a past life that had a real reference to this life. And if you have anxiety or depression in this life, is there a cause that comes through or is feeding through from that past life? So quite often, if you take them through a past life regression with the intention to go back to a situation that happened in a past life that they had when they were human, obviously, that meant something happened that then brought on that anxiety into this life. So quite often we've sort of seen we can work with people and clear anxiety just with past life meditation. So hypnosis probably does the same sort of thing. And obviously from our perspective, certainly an SRT clearing covers all of the layers of entities, earthbound attachments, cursing portals, that whole thing. So again, if you look at anxiety as a symptom, which could have many sources, but again, most of those sources, in my opinion, can be dealt with from a spiritual perspective, really, which is quite interesting. So quite interesting, mate, actually, if we could probably to get some people come on to some of these podcasts with these problems that we've worked on, or not you and I have worked on, but people, the practitioners, SRA practitioners have worked on that have cleared the problems. And it'd be interesting for the audience, I'm sure, for them to hear and discuss that with people that have had those real problems, had a clearing done, and then talk about how that affects them from a mental well-being perspective moving forward.
Yeah,
do you think that's something that we could do?
Yeah, the before and after. So if there is anybody out there that's had that, we can certainly do that and bring them in and they can explain it. Because when we go, this goes back to what we do on an SRT clearing, I guess, compared to a lot of people. The depth of clearing in an in one of our reports, an SRA report, is immense and far bigger than any other I've ever seen. And part of that is that we go back and we do go into past life. We do check. We do see if there's, I mean, Whitehawk calls them ropes, but to us it's more cords to a past life that brings that emotion back in, something that's restricting. And the reason why he calls it ropes is that he'll often show me a rope attaching to someone's back that's anchored, and it's that anchor that's holding people back. So, you know, as soon as I see a rope with an anchor, I know then that we've got a past life connection here, and we can go in and start working that. But it's absolutely huge. The anxiety levels that are out there are absolutely huge, and so simply dealt with, really, really simply dealt with a practitioner. This is where we want it to go. Andy and I obviously run the academy like this. It is a teaching academy. First and foremost, it is a teaching academy. We're here to help people learn how to become practitioners to our standard, to our level. And we drive ourselves to be the very best that we can be. But also, Andy and I have aspirations to go into different areas, take the academy into different places where those practitioners will then have an opportunity of making a real difference in a real world scenario. And this is just part of the work that we were saying earlier, behind the scenes, that no one sees, the hours that go into it. But it's all good fun. It's all good fun, and we just enjoy. I think we enjoy every moment doing it.
Yeah, I was just reading the comments actually from Stephanie. Have you seen that comment? Yeah,
we can do that.
So I was just trying to work out how to connect to her to see if I could invite her in.
Well, she's saying if we DM her.
Yeah, no, so I'm trying to work out how to DM her, mate.
Maybe bring her on next week.
Yeah.
We could do that and maybe bring it in next week, bring that conversation.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Perfect. So there you go. Maybe next week we'll have a chat with Stephanie as well.
Yeah, that'd be good. And I think this is like my intention of these types of conversations and these podcasts, really, is it's kind of real. The week on, we start talking about things. If it has affected you and your family and your life, and you've got things you want us to talk about or you want us to bring to the table, then we're more than happy to get, like I say, a 3-way or 4-way chat going live on Facebook, where people can actually ask questions and we can kind of cover, as Stephanie said, her story. Because I think this is the thing, mate, and I guess sometimes, and I probably do as much as anybody else, but sometimes we forget there are real people behind what we're doing. So when we're working through clearings every day and we're talking to the spirit guides and we're clearing things and we're kind of removing and clearing entities and earthbounds and that kind of stuff, when you've been doing it for a long, long time, it's part of your normal day-to-day, really. So it's part of your kind of routine. But I think it's easy to forget that there are real people that are the recipients of the work, and those real people, like Stephanie, have a story. So, I've got a story, as most people have probably heard, and you've got a story, mate, that you've talked about as well. And I think this is what makes life more interesting, is that people do have stories. People do have been through difficult circumstances, traumas and things. And as you say, in terms of it's one of the things I know we're both quite keen of, is talking to soldiers. So people that have been to war and actually seen war and its kind of, unfiltered horror, I guess, to that version. And we both know that on a battlefield in war, there will be entities that are there picking up and connecting to that low frequency, the fear, the trauma, the adrenaline that soldiers feel. So I think the whole battlefield conversation in connecting with people that have been to war and have come back, how that's affected their mental health. You and I both know they'll be definitely coming back with attachments for sure. And I was clearing someone last week, actually, who's in a war zone. And I've been clearing him weekly, actually, because his parents are keen to try and keep him clear. So most weeks he has attachments and things, and he's actually in a place where they do a lot of cursing. And then this week, when I did clear him, again, more attachments, more earthbounds and things. But there are a whole lot of curses. And when we sort of followed the curses back, the curses were going back to like the local tribes people. And I thought that was really interesting because I hadn't seen that before. So obviously local tribes people in some of these countries that we have soldiers at war are actually cursing the soldiers in a very negative way with some quite powerful entities behind that curse. And again, it's like all this work, mate, is always the same, isn't it? Everything new comes up continually. You never kind of get to see the same thing. But I thought that was quite interesting that, lots of soldiers probably come home that have been to war zones, and the local population have cursed them, and they're going to be taking around, or heaving along that block of negative energy in the form of a curse for the rest of their life, because they don't know it's there. And that block of negative energy in terms of cursing will give them things like anxiety and depression, and probably intrusive thoughts and that kind of stuff. So again, I know we keep talking of this kind of everything gets bigger, but really, if we were connecting to the armed forces of our countries, I guess, when soldiers come back from deployments, they should be spiritually cleared, really, as part of their kind of onboarding back into their family. Because if you think about someone that's coming back from war zone, that's been in the most fearful situations in their life, more than likely, and lost their friends, their emotional state is going to be pretty negative, and a lot of turmoil. And of course, they're dragging back with them curses, potentially entity attachments and spirit attachments, earthbounds. And of course, all that gets taken back into the home. So that person walks back into the lounge and kitchen, says hi to his wife, girlfriend, partner, husband, whoever, and starts to live a normal life, bringing all of this negativity back with them. And that has got to have a massive effect on the family, I would think.
It will do.
Is that your opinion?
Well, I mean, I don't think it does affect the family without question, but you've got one individual in a family unit that is bringing this energy back. But quite regularly, this energy will try and climb the ladder of power. So, for example, if I'm coming back from a war zone and I have this energy where I've lost my frequency, my natural sovereignty, because the extremity of where I've been working, and I bring that back into the home unit, me being the way that I'm acting, the way that I'm seeing the world, the way that I'm controlling my speech, my thought patterns, the way that I'm living my life with my family, my wife, my children, they will also become affected by the way that I act. And all you need then is a small break in their frequency, and then you can have jumpers, entities that jump from one to another. You can have the fact that their frequency is disrupted, perforated, fractured, and then they're more open to receiving, that their own attachments, their own negative energy. And, sometimes this isn't about scaremongering. It really, really isn't. It is about educating, and it is about helping people understand that they can take the power of their own energy. They can take the power of their own sovereignty. And it really, really is important to do that. And if you do have somebody around you that is mentally struggling with their mental health, you can simply power up your energy so that you do walk away without that connection. And this is why, and this is bringing me into Daniela's comment, where she very kindly asked the question is, what sort of person are we looking for? What are the attributes and the qualities that we're looking for in the academy? And we have teams of two. So we have a medium and a facilitator. And the medium is somebody that is an accomplished, experienced medium who knows how to handle spiritual problems. They don't necessarily know how to handle our spiritual problems, but they have a confidence working with their guides, and they have an ability working with their guides. So this is not a spiritual development course. When we're talking to mediums, they have to be good level. Mediums would be defined as people that either do readings for people and have that spiritual connection and are very good at interpreting the messages coming from their guides, or healers that work with spirit guides as well. So anybody that has that influence from spirit guides, they're the people that we want on the medium side of our team in the academy, but they have to be of a certain level. This is not go to a psychic development class twice and then come into the academy as a medium. You would do far more harm than good to yourself. The other side is the facilitator. And the facilitator is the person that manages the whole session. Usually what we get, the type of person that we have coming through for the facilitation of the role, are people that are psychiatrists, that they're hypnosis. They have that sort of therapy background behind them. It's not essential. We can have people that just have that huge interest in coming into the academy and doing this sort of work as a facilitator. But it does lend itself to people that have that interest in hypnosis, that interest in the psychological ways of which the mind works. But like I say, you don't have to be that. You can come in without those qualifications, but the chances are you're the sort of person that would find that really interesting and understanding and want to take that on as well. So they're really the two roles that we have, and that's why Terry was so adamant about sort of working in pairs doing this, because of the safety. Just as someone coming home from a war zone coming into the home unit can interrupt the vibration of the home, so a clearing can interrupt the vibration of the practitioners working there as well. But it all goes hand in hand. Everything goes hand in hand through the protocol. And let's not forget and put credit where it is deserved. The protocol that we have is easy to follow and it's easy to do. And that is because it was developed over a period of 10, 11 years with Dr. Palmer and Andy, basically. So it is a way that we can battle mental health, and mental health is growing and getting far more out there. Far more people are getting affected by it or exposing the fact that they are affected by it, particularly the younger generation coming through as well. The younger generation are having a lot of thoughts at the moment which they shouldn't be happening. And, it's incredible, really, that they're feeling that way. They should be concentrating on other things rather than just some of the fear-based stuff that's out there. But we can help. We can certainly help that.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point, actually, because that kind of leads us on. I mean, we're still working or talking about the topic about anxiety and depression, really, from this conversation, or certainly from this podcast. But again, if you look at the younger generation, lots of them are sat in their bedrooms, they're connecting to other people on the internet. Lots of people are playing games, especially war-based games. And again, war-based games work on the same way from an emotional and mental perspective as they do in reality. So when your son or daughter sat up in the bedroom and they're playing Call of Duty and they think they're killing everybody and they're in that high adrenaline state, they're with their friends and they're talking on their headphones and stuff. My son Ollie used to do it, and he used to love playing Call of Duty. And I never thought it was particularly good or positive because he used to go into rages. So he would literally turn into kind of like a different person when he was playing those games. And in the end, we used to sort of limit the time, or I'd just walk downstairs and turn the router off, which tended to fix the problem pretty quickly because no internet means no Call of Duty. But what I did see when that was happening was really interesting from his perspective, really, is that you take this person that's very kind, calm and mellow, put them in Call of Duty for an hour, and you've got a completely different rage-based negative personality to deal with. And that, as you said, it kind of interrupts the flow of energy in the house. So when he comes downstairs after just losing or whatever else, it's they think emotionally they've been to war, because of course the way that we work from a psychological perspective is the brain doesn't really know the difference. When you're looking at a computer-based game and you're killing people and you're dodging and you're fighting for your life, the same concept, it happens in reality. And we're visual beings, aren't we? That we see everything visually. So from an emotional perspective and from our kind of programming, those people playing these sorts of war-based games, even though they're internet computer games, really believe they're at war and they're about to die and they're about to be shot, and they're in that huge level of fear, anger, negativity. And of course, they then attract that vibration into their space. So they're going to attract in earthbangs or entities primarily to connect to their etheric field. So when they come downstairs and they're very negative, and again, they're very red in the face and all this kind of stuff, which I've experienced myself and seen firsthand, it takes quite a long time to bring them back down to reality, that you're not at war. That was a game. You're talking to your mates. It should be enjoyable, but you're in this kind of very negative space, like chill out. But you do see this anxiety and this kind of like almost depression from those people. And Ollie, I'm sure if he was on this call, would put his hand up immediately and say, yeah, when I used to play those sort of games, I turned into something very negative because he thought he was fighting for his life. And that's why you see that emotional outbreak and you see the rage and the anger and the negativity. So it's no big surprise, is it, that in that teenage spectrum, lots of boys and girls are playing these games like Call of Duty, and they're basically inviting in all of this negativity to the household, which of course changes the vibration of the household, basically.
Sorry.
Just sort of pop-up appear there. Jonno's playing with the controls.
Yeah, no, I was listening to you, but I was reading Stephanie's comment, and I was thinking, how can I reply specifically to that? And
Yeah, okay.
I clicked on the comment, and it showed it. So I didn't mean to do that.
That's cool. That's all right, mate. It's fine.
Yeah. But Stephanie, if you send us an email, contact@spiritreleaseacademy.com. Let's put it in here as well.
Yeah, I was going to say. So I think that's the thing. I think from my perspective, just carrying that kind of conversation forward. So, so people that are, if you've got children, or teenagers at home and they're playing games and things, especially Call of Duty and stuff, it's worth thinking about their mental state, how it's affecting them. I know obviously you can't control them when they're 17, 18, they're going to do what they want to do. But what you can do is you can visualize putting protection around them whilst they play the games, try and protect their energy. You can put crystals and things, or certainly pyramids and stuff around the space to hold the vibration of the space. I kind of visualize when we go into places like cinemas, I visualize a protective screen that comes down in front of the actual cinema screen to stop things coming out negatively, because of course entities use portals and attach to people. And I think there's a famous picture, isn't there, of the Exorcist in my day, mate, and your day, which goes probably back to like mid-80s, I guess. There's a picture of a hand coming out of a TV to try and connect to the little girl that was sat there. It's kind of famous Exorcist picture, but that's exactly what I've seen. I've seen things come through screens and try to attach me or attack me or connect to us. So I know for a fact that the entities use TV screens, cinema screens, computer screens as portals, basically, to come into your space. So it's really important, if you've got kids and children that are playing these games, to visualize, a protective kind of bubble around the screen, or to put like a kind of mirrored bubble or a mirrored screen in front of your child, separating them from the actual LCD screen or TV that they're watching, because that is how portals connect. And again, we'll have to have a look on the web and find that picture, but I can kind of visualize this picture of a screen and this hand that comes through and tries to connect to the energy of the person that's on the other side. Yeah, so it's, and these things cause anxiety, and they cause depression, and they cause lots of negative emotions, and people generally don't understand that it can be very easily resolved, which I think is the key. Because what you and I are talking about here isn't, you don't need to be a millionaire to buy things and do things to fix these problems. You just need to understand the spiritual concepts of what's happening, and then you can put things in place really quickly and for more or less no cost at all to kind of resolve a lot of these problems. So, just setting your room up with some crystals and some pyramids and some other bits and pieces that are on our websites that you can see, visualizing protective bubbles around the equipment that you use. Obviously, there's lots of like ascension-based tools and stuff that you can Google and you can find that you can put in your space that help to keep it clear. So there's loads of things that you can do for not much cost at all that makes a big difference to your life. But again, it's understanding it is the key. And I think, from my perspective and your perspective, probably that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to broadcast our knowledge of these spiritual problems out to a wider audience, really, and disseminating that into a place that people can understand in a normal way. Because we don't want to talk about it in a fear-based way. And I know you said that earlier, we're not trying to create fear, and we don't try and create fear. What we're trying to do is we're trying to educate people to lift their vibration and move into a positive space. But sometimes to do that, we have to have the fear-based conversation. We have to talk about negative things because they exist and they're around and they control lots of things. And therefore, if we don't talk about them, we're not going to understand how they work, and then we can't resolve them, or we can't kind of move forward. So is that your...
That's the thing, isn't it? It's it's a realistic conversation that we have. The reason why we discuss things is because this is what we do day in, day out. And if it wasn't done in, day out, we wouldn't be discussing it. It's as simple as that. But this is the crux of our work. This is the backbone of our work and what we do. And one of the questions, if I pronounce the name right, Nupu, said if you curse someone, is it possible to cancel that? Absolutely. So if you think of the intention to put a curse on somebody, if you had the same intention to stop that curse and to retrieve that curse and to eradicate that curse, then that curse is gone. So a curse is easily controllable, usually controlled by the person that sends it in the first place. But there are ways to protect against it, which is one of the things we do. In our clearings, But it's come to that time, mate. I need to get off. I have another appointment to have dressings changed.
We don't want to know, mate, what you're doing. It sounds painful, though, of course. So we are thinking of you in the nicest possible way.
Thanks. Yeah, it's
But
not
it's
a
good.
particularly comfortable experience, but
No, I can imagine that.
Fine.
I think that's what that's why these podcasts are good. That we can just knock out, certain things we want to talk about in the timeline that works for the audience, and then if people have got questions, we can connect behind the scenes. So I think it's been good, mate.
absolutely. And we can do all that, and we shall. We shall.
Cool. Okay, well, I'll say thank you to everyone that's joined this particular podcast, and those that obviously watch it and catch up. I'll say hi to you guys as well, because obviously there's lots of people in different time zones that are unable to watch things live, which is why we want to make sure they're saved. And we're also starting to stream this to our YouTube channel. So SRA have a YouTube channel called Spirit Release Academy, funnily enough. So we're going to be streaming all of this content onto there as well as Facebook. So we've got things in 2 places. So if you're a YouTube person or you're not a Facebook person, then obviously you should be able to see it on there as well.
Absolutely.
All right, mate.
And
I'll
if
say
you are
goodbye.
that person that fits the bill, either as a medium or a facilitator, then we'd certainly love to hear from you, either via the website, messaging, contact at Spirit Release Academy. We've got online courses that are going ahead, and also we have the Ithaca training in the state of New York in October, and that's something that we're getting ready for now, which is really, really exciting. I'm really looking forward to that. Taking the academy across the pond. Looking forward to that. And that barbecue restaurant in Ithaca.
So I was going back to say, if you're in the New York area and you fancy doing some training, meeting us and obviously doing the barbecue thing, that would be quite cool. Maybe we need to contact that restaurant and have that conversation before we come.
Maybe we do. Maybe we do. I have to dash. Farewell, everybody, and have a great day.